Do you like the north of England? Would you like to spend a couple of days doing nothing but playing board games, eating great food, in the presence of fantastic people, some well-known faces from board game media, and potentially Matthew Jude smelling great? Then come to AireCon between the 13th to 15th of March next year. Tickets and more information are available on their website. That's aircon.co.uk and also in the links in the show notes. And now, on with the show. Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for autumn or fall if you're in America.
Autumn. You can't call it fall.
It's yes, I can.
There is literally a line in one of our audio dramas where my character says, "I'm not saying fall. I'm not saying that word. I'm saying autumn." And then he redoes it. It's brilliant.
I am the person that looks at the stats, and I realise that the number of people that are listening to this, more of them are based on the sunny side of the world, which is also known as the America, you know.
I know.
So
I know. That's the brilliant part of it.
I have to mention it both. Joining me today already, because he just can't help himself. It's almost like, you know, he's kind of keeps on cropping up. And I've got to the point where he just turns up. He's like kind of like a neighbour that you regret saying hello to, because now what happens is he just turns up at your doorstep and goes, "Oh, yeah, I've not watched this episode of Breaking Bad. I've seen this before. Have you seen it?" And you're like, "No." "Oh, this is the really good bit where this bit happens and then this bit happens and then this bit happens." So joining me, I've got my won't you be my neighbour, Mr. Ed Jowett from Shades of Vengeance, who he's a serial kind of offender. He's always like a serial podcast guest. We do like him.
So kind of like cornflakes or Rice Krispies, or, you know, do we have a preference? Cocoa Pops, maybe. Ricicles?
That's the sound of all the applause that you're getting for that joke, because it's absolutely terrible. How dare you? What you're doing, you're bringing down the tone of the conversation already. Things like that are forbidden. No. Things like that are forbidden. You're not rocking out with the dad jokes. It's like having Aaron Wilson on again and him telling all his little dad jokes, which he only told one, and it was pretty bad. But anyway, those types of jokes are forbidden. And speaking of forbidden, we're here to talk about Era Forbidden, which is a tabletop RPG. Aren't we, Ed?
We are, in fact, here to talk about Era Forbidden, which I pronounce a tabletop RPG, but RPG works too.
It's like, I decide how I want to pronounce stuff.
Look, like I said, I pronounce it RPG, and you pronounce it the way you want to. It's fine.
It's a role-playing game.
You're wrong,
RPG.
But it's fine.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong, but it's not right. The reason that
Let's agree to disagree.
You can say what you want. I'm still trying to get on with this while you're interrupting every 2 minutes, and it's just not happening. The reason that we do this quite simply is because sometimes you have a really, really good bunch of guests, and then sometimes you need to remind yourself the level that you started off at, which is why you have Ed coming back on. And the other reason that we do this is because because actually, when it comes down to it, I do like having Ed on the show, because we don't need to. It's like I can walk around his house with my shoes on, because we're at that point in our friendship where I used to take my shoes off and now I don't care. You know, I'm just tromping about his house on his cream carpet, you know, helping myself to a cup of coffee and his last
insulting his
chocolate
dog,
or whatever. Insulting your fat dog. with a funny eye. Did you get his eye sorted out? Because I mean, it kept looking one way and the other. I didn't know if it was like going left or going right, going for a shave or a haircut. I had no idea. But I hope it's doing well.
It's supposed to be a challenge.
It's not, because it keeps chasing its nose down the street, and that's just embarrassing. Era Forbidden's quite important, isn't it? I mean, is it kind of like a different direction for you guys?
Era Forbidden is really important to me for one very specific reason. Well, no, actually about 5 very specific reasons. Era Forbidden is my 10th tabletop role-playing game. That is 10th unique line. I can list them all out if you're desperate to hear, but all you really have to do is check the backlog of this gentleman's show and you'll find all of them. Era Forbidden is my 10th tabletop role-playing game universe, and I developed it with my wife, Immaculate Jowett, who has sort of participated ever since kind of Era of the Consortium in the early days. But she's never really sort of come forward and said, yes, I'll design a game with you before. So that was, that's a really big deal for me. Another reason that this game is a really big deal for me is Sophia Michailidou, who has done the artwork. She's done artwork for games since Era of the Consortium. She did Era Liars, Era Silence, various other bits and pieces.
Yeah. But
she and I have never really kind of done an entire game together from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And, what she's done for Era Forbidden is absolutely stunning. And for me, it's really a sign of how, this almost sounds insulting, how far her artwork has come over sort of 7 years that we've been working together. Because I think that what she's done for Era Forbidden is absolutely jaw-dropping. It's so good. And, I am so proud to have worked with her for all of this time and sort of reached this point where we're creating this game. And there's so much more in the future as well. This certainly isn't going to be the last game or anything. It's a lovely milestone to be at. 10 games. We're actually at around 83 books in total at the moment. Published and sold. That is not in total. I mean, that's 83 unique books.
That's pretty cool. And in terms of your wife kind of getting involved, has she come in and kind of fixed things that bugged her? Has she challenged? Because you've always been, I know that you collaborate with kind of people. I know you get feedback from groups and stuff like that. I know that you have a nice little community kind of going on. But was it different having, I take it, was your wife quite happy to kind of challenge you on how certain things were working and try and make slight changes to the system itself? Was she kind of quite happy to drive it off more in her own direction than what you intended to? And did she surprise you at any point in the development process where you were like, actually, wow, that's a pretty good way to do things, actually, come to think of it?
So the answer is absolutely. She surprised me quite frequently during the development process, but her focus was primarily on the story side, not so much on the mechanic side. But in the case of the way the story came together, the idea of angels are winged and they kind of live in the sky and so on, and that's a thing, and the demons kind of emerge from the ground and run around in what used to be the sewers, under cities and so on. She said, okay, but, if they're actually going to fight and the angels aren't going to have all of the advantage, then, winged demons have to be a thing.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a really good point. It was kind of like, oh yeah, well, I mean, the demons jump really high. Yeah, that high? Okay, probably not. No, that's actually a very good point. And the reason that kind of that sort of stuff didn't really occur to me is I was very inspired by Darksiders, the 3 computer games, which I've enjoyed since I picked up the first one, and I made the decision that when Darksiders 3 came out, I was actually going to play the remastered versions on the PlayStation 4 of the previous two, and then play Darksiders 3, so that I reminded myself of the story, kept it fresh. I played the last one sort of 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
When I did that, I sort of sat down and did that, and sort of that really immersed me in the world quite heavily, and it inspired kind of the idea around the Forbidden. Is very much inspired by the horsemen in Darksiders. They're these loners who, have to navigate this world and don't want humanity to be this dead race. But equally, they're not part of humanity. They're separate, and some humans may even be scared of them. And kind of I built on that to then build the Forbidden and what they are. But then immediately after that, the new Hellboy movie came out. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, these two things are kind of similar. I can sort of pick up some of this and some of that, and we kind of went through and we watched the two previous Hellboy movies and then the new one, and we came up with some new ideas, kind of extrapolating from each of those, and it ended up with this world that sort of angels and demons are fighting, and humans are still running around down there, but the angels and demons for the most part don't care, right? They aren't interested. Mm-hmm. The demons want to, they'll occasionally try and feed on humans because they eat things, but the angels just they'll fight immediately over a human sort of colony or whatever, and everyone will die because they're in the way. They don't care. And sort of the idea that there are champions who can defend the humans and protect the humans and keep them alive, who, in order to become that champion, have to give up some of their humanity. They have to sort of become something different. Mm-hmm. In a way that they can never really go back to being a normal human again. When an angel sees a Forbidden, they'll target them. They'll go straight for them and try to kill them because they see them as kind of, well, you've grabbed our weapons, so you're trying to become a threat to us. The demons will just attack anything that's nearby, so they'll absolutely attack Forbidden as well. So, it's a very dangerous thing to be in order to try and protect humanity. And I thought that was a lovely kind of feel for the game, because although I've done kind of post-apocalyptic stuff with Era Survival, I've done hero stuff with Era the Consortium, the idea that you're this isolated is not something that I've really explored very sort of specifically. And as a result of that, I came to the idea that maybe this game should be for a small number of players. So the game's actually optimized for 1 or 2 players and a GM, which means it really caters for those small groups that can't get a larger group together. I have one of my writing team likes to play with his 8-year-old daughter, right? This kind of game, depending on obviously how you express the setting, because it is quite dark, this kind of game is fantastic for that sort of thing. The mechanics are all balanced to let you tell a solo story, to let you go in and sort of wade through these armies of demons, whether stealthily or through brute force, and actually sort of tell your own story. Tell your story rather than necessarily a large party's story, where everyone needs to have a go.
Was that kind of whole thing, was that welcome with open arms by the community then? Because every single, it's one of the greatest kind of memes ever is, the one of the one of Gimli and Legolas and Strider, or whatever his name is, kind of saying, you have my axe, you have my bow, I can't do Thursday, kind of thing. And it's kind of like, that the whole kind of thing about, just try to get a D&D group kind of together. And I think one of the things that I've always seen, and I don't know if this is because I haven't played enough Ripigas, is quite simply that I've always assumed that any type of role-playing game needs at least about 3 or 4 players, because how else do you build the characterization? Does it not sound a bit daft if you try to kind of role play your character and there's just another 1 or 2 of you in the room? But also, my board game head says, well, I play solo player games. I sometimes play multiplayer games as a solo player. I often play other games as a 2-player variant because, it's an easy way, and it means it's a lot easier for me to get one person together and one person doing something regularly sometimes than it is to get kind of like an entire group, which was kind of interesting. So was that some of the thought kind of behind it when you decided, actually, let's make this for 2 or 3 people as opposed to making it for plays best at 5 or 6 kind of thing?
Yeah, it really was, because, when you get to sort of as many games, as many different worlds as I have, you start wanting to do something that isn't just, oh, here's another world that I created, here's another world I created. You want to do things that sort of appeal to different parts of the community. And the thing that really got me on that was actually at Dragon Meet last December, 9 months ago now. A gentleman walked up to our little stand at Dragon Meet and said, "Oh, hi. I was wondering if you had any more pocket games, because I got Liar's Silence, Balam, and Hitman.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed having these sort of one-shot games that I can pull out. Obviously, they don't have to be one-shots, but that's the way he played them. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed having this variety of games that I can just pull out at no notice. They all run on the same rule set with just modifications for the setting, so it's really easy to remember how they play. Do you have any more of them?" And my answer at the time was no, because those 4 were the only pocket games that I'd produced. I'd been working on Era the Chosen at the time, and I kind of started thinking to myself, okay, well, if someone, they're not interested in our sort of larger games, they only really want the pocket games, what other kind of groups of people might I not have been catering for so well? Any game can be played with any number of people, but, I'm the first to admit that Era the Consortium is best played with 4 or 5 people because of the way the balance works with the weapons and so on.
Yeah.
What other groups am I not catering to? And as you say, the meme that you refer to is one of the most sort of common memes that I come across as well. We all want to play role-playing games, at one time or another, and it's so common to have, oh, but I can't make this day. And then as the GM, particularly, because I'm usually a GM, you're going, okay, well, do I still run the game this day because this person can't make it? And do I, pause their character in some way or write them out a bit or whatever? Or do I kind of push the date back and do it another day, and then who knows when the next date is that everyone can even make it? And then, you can end up in perpetually pushing it back and never getting anywhere. So, yeah, I mean, I wanted to kind of start catering for the groups that I haven't done to date. Barring the sci-fi fans, the superhero fans, the zombie apocalypse fans, and so on. I've not really thought so much about the group of people who are going to play the game as I'm going to make an amazing game, an amazing setting. It's going to be balanced for the normal kind of group of people who play a role-playing game. I thought it was time that I did something a little different. And, in its own way, Era Balam was a little different, playing as a squadron of fighters, and Era the Chosen was a little different with its kind of technological progression through the ages, which is probably more extreme than anything else I've ever done. But yeah, in this I thought, okay, we're going to have one level of technology. We're not going to be doing this. There is an awesome history that I would love to tell. I should say there's a stretch goal for Era Forbidden to turn it into a full core rulebook, and all backers, if we reach that stretch goal, will get the digital rulebook when it's written.
All right.
the full rulebook, not just the pocket rulebook, which will also be available as soon as it's written. Well, it's being proofread at the moment. It's already written. It's practically done. More artwork to come.
I mean, jumping back a bit, because I think it's important, because yes, while we do talk on a regular basis, I'm also aware that, not
everyone's listened to us before.
Yeah, there's that kind of thing, and we are continuing. I mean, we've had a phenomenal kind of shot of growth in recent times, so I'm aware that potentially, as people move on to bigger and better podcasts from ourselves, and I'm aware that, there'll be some people out there that are going, I have no idea what Ed is talking about. And I'm thinking, well, yes, I am sometimes the same, but that is fine. Because what Ed is going to do is Ed is going to take a step back from Era Forbidden, and he's going to give us a quick 3 minutes, 37 seconds of what his Era system is about. It's a D10 system. But you tell us, for those who are sitting there and going, well, because we've had a couple of our Ripiga people on. The last one was the Everyverse Ripiga. But if you could tell us kind of the Era system, how does it work and stuff like that, just to introduce the new people, the shiny people, the beautiful people, and the lovely people, what it's all about.
I'd like to say that everyone who's listening to this is beautiful and lovely. So, but the new people, absolutely.
Some of you aren't. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Richard says, the Era D10 system is a multiple D10 dice pool system. Shortcut for anyone who's very familiar with lots of role-playing games. It's got some similarities to old World of Darkness and new Shadowrun, but new Shadowrun with D10s. So what you do is you have an attribute and you have a skill for any given situation. You'll take a number of dice based on that attribute plus that skill. You'll roll those dice and you'll aim for a success threshold that is based on the difficulty of the action you're trying to achieve. The number of successes you get, so the number that equal or exceed that threshold, is, defines how well that action went. So sort of, you might have a threshold of 7 for shooting an enemy, or you might have a threshold of 8 for sort of staying hidden when you think the enemy's already found you, but you want to try and stay hidden anyway, because they might be bluffing. And then, depending on the number of successes you get from those rolls, say 3 successes on hiding might let you sort of stay where you are and really hope, whereas sort of a 1 success might not be enough to stop you from panicking and running out and trying to run away.
Yes.
The Era D10 system it spans a lot of different genres, but it is not a one-size-fits-all system. And that's a really important factor for me in the way that Era D10 works. Era D10 is a modular system that has a core kind of set of rules that work in a certain way for all of the games. So the attributes and the skills that I described, the actual skills change from game to game. They aren't always exactly identical. The attributes, on the other hand, tend to remain the same, and the number of skills tends to remain the same. But what then happens is you have modular pieces that you can add into the rules in order to have a flavour for a specific universe. As I said, I've produced 10 games, so in my science fiction game, Era the Consortium, that was the first one I created, there are implants that you can insert into yourself. And there are specialties that give you sort of just that little extra oomph that other characters won't have. In Era Survival, there's a thing called the Karma system, which, it's not quite like alignment, because it's the results of your actions. So good things will happen to good people and bad things will happen to bad people. And there is a whole deck of cards and an entire mechanic set that sits around these specific karma choices. In Era Silence, it's based on sort of accumulating letters, each of which gives you a separate ability, and so on and so on. So, each of these games gives you that different flavour, and what's more is you can combine them. So I've done an expansion for Era the Consortium, which combines the survival horror elements, the limited ammunition, and the constant threat of death from Era Survival, called Era the Consortium Revival. That's actually turned out very well, and you can always combine bits and pieces. And that brings me to 3 minutes and 37 seconds, which is exactly what Richard asked for.
See? And he writes this all himself. I mean, it's not like he's got a team. He's kind of like, he goes away and he does his stuff by himself, and then he rocks up. And you're prolific on Kickstarter. I mean, you've got, was it 33 campaigns?
So
of various
I've got 33 on this account.
Yes.
There's also an SOV Comics account.
Right.
And I've also run 4 for other people who sort of worked with me to publish their game. So I'm actually over 50 at this point, Kickstarters. 48 of which have been funded to date.
So this means that Ed has to basically be stopped. This is what we're saying. He's done far... I know. I mean, I'm pot calling the kettle black. Is that what it means? Pot calling the kettle black here. I'm saying sitting here like with 300 and goodness knows how many podcasts under my belt, telling somebody else that's done like basically a sixth of what I've done, that they're doing far too much. I'm obviously there's. I would like to point
out that most of my books take more than half an hour to write.
Most of my shows take like, don't be throwing that hat down, mister. This isn't just something that I'm going to put out there, throw together a theme tune and an end tune and just stick out there with some show notes. I know I'm pretty sure that is exactly what you do. I'm pretty sure it isn't at all. This is a well-crafted, highly organised machine of audiographic grace and beauty. How dare you, sir, besmirch.
In fairness, you did insult my fat dog. So what am I going to say?
It's quite a lot. I'm not saying it's winter's coming up and he's got a store. You don't want to get him cold. He's not fat. It's just a lot of him I love.
He's just big boned.
There's a lot of him I love. I'm not fat shaming your dog. I am fat shaming your dog. I'm terrible. I'm fat shaming your dog. I feel so bad.
I think that makes you an awful person. You have to go and delete 100 podcasts off your list now.
I don't know. Well, I'll make sure most of them are yours then. Anyway, in terms of kind of going back, because there continues to be kind of like an appetite for your books. I mean, for you to turn around and go, well, I've done I've actually done 50 Kickstarter campaigns, but then saying like 48 of them funded. I mean, that's a hell of a batting rate on there. I mean, how do you continue, for people that are saying, well, I'm on campaign number 2, campaign number 3, or I'm just about to start campaign number 1. What, if you were able to send a note back in time to yourself, kind of when you were back at book number, campaign number 2 and 3, is there any advice you would give to people thinking about starting on Kickstarter maybe just now that you think would help them?
So if I was to send myself advice back to campaign 1 versus campaign 2 or 3, it would be quite different advice. So if you're looking to start on Kickstarter for the first time, open the category that you're going to work on and scroll. Scroll until you can't scroll anymore. Okay? For live projects. And look at those projects and realise that is the level of support that Kickstarter is likely to provide you. So I should say, in most of my projects, about 50% of my backers come from within Kickstarter. Nowadays, that does include people who are reminded by Kickstarter when I launch a project, because people follow me on Kickstarter. But it's always been pretty close to that amount.
All right, okay.
Kickstarter has a very active community. It's fantastic. But the level of backing that you can expect from Kickstarter is going to be similar to those right down at the bottom, not those at the top, because the ones at the top are staff picks on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They're now called Project We Love, but I'm sorry, I'm stuck 5 years ago. And they are artificially pushed up the search rankings. In 48 funded Kickstarters, in 51 total, I have had 2 Projects We Love. Ever. Out of all of those, over 5 years. It makes a huge difference when you get selected in that way, but you can't rely on it. So look at those ones down at the bottom, understand what they did wrong, and understand also that you are probably only going to get that level of support from Kickstarter, and set your goal accordingly. My first Kickstarter's goal was entirely unrealistic because I did not follow that advice. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But that's the primary piece of advice I would give myself if I was going back to day one. Now, if I was to go back to after my first campaign had failed, and then after my second campaign had funded, the piece of advice I would give myself, it's something I only learned later, is look at your peers very carefully. Find out which ones do well, find out which ones do badly, and plagiarize the crap out of them. Seriously, copy, right? These guys do t-shirts and they had like 80 people buy their t-shirts.
Yeah.
Okay, people in your domain want t-shirts, right?
Yeah.
Pay for an attractive t-shirt to be designed, find a way of printing the t-shirt at a cost you can actually sell it at, try and match their kind of cost for what the t-shirt was, and obviously bear in mind if it's a licensed property, say it's a Batman game or something, then you're playing a different game to what they're playing. So look at the proportions of what people backed. If 1,000 people backed for the game and 80 people backed for the t-shirt, you might get one person backing for the t-shirt and 15 people backing for the game.
Yeah.
Roughly in that kind of, proportion. So plan accordingly. Don't buy 500 t-shirts assuming you'll sell them, because you won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of, say, the marketing side of things, do you think there's a larger percentage that needs to take place outside Kickstarter? I mean, do you have to be kind of visible long before you put the campaign kind of out there? I mean, are you kind of constantly marketing to the existing following that you have, as well as try to get like a newer following kind of stepping on board? And is it a case that you just can't turn up on Kickstarter and say, right, here's my stuff, give us all your money, please, if you don't mind, kind of thing?
So that's a really interesting question, because I have experienced kind of both extremes, and most people who find success on Kickstarter can't explain how they did. Right? I have run multiple different comics, for example. One of them made $1,500, and one of them made $500.
Yeah.
I did nothing different between those two comics. The artwork was very similar, similar standard. The marketing was very similar. I have a method of writing Kickstarter stories, so that was pretty similar. The video was pretty similar. I did both of them. There is no reason per se that I can point to that would say that. And that equally applies to some of the people who I've worked with, who have run $5,000 Kickstarters and then a $1,000 Kickstarter and don't really know why. I am of the school, and there are definitely people who disagree with me on this. I am of the school that says, if you are plugging constantly, say the month running up to your Kickstarter, people are bored of it before they even get there.
Yeah.
Right? They just don't want to hear it, and when you put out a post saying, oh, now the Kickstarter's live, no one wants to know. Right? You've spammed them into oblivion.
But do you also think, I mean, counter to that point, though, with a number of Kickstarters that are coming out, you still have to be banging home the message on a long time. I get where you're coming from. I mean, I'm a member of a lot of Facebook groups, and sometimes you do see the same person kind of dropping links to the points where I think a lot of groups have brought in rules to say that basically if you're not engaging with the group itself, then will not allow you just to kind of drop your link and then disappear. I see that. I've actually seen kind of like maybe probably as many admin posts as there in the last kind of couple of weeks, from groups just saying, look, we understand Kickstarter's competitive, but if you're just using us as a kind of to try and drop a message in front of our 11,000 kind of members, then you can kind of forget about it. Which again, I don't know. I mean, from my point of view, the community is important. You've got to build up that community, and as you say, if you've got only bringing 50% of your Kickstarter funding is coming from Kickstarter, it has to come from a kind of an external source, and it's getting that kind of balance, isn't it? It's getting the people
I think there's a balance, right? I think if no one's heard of your Kickstarter before you launch it, you have an uphill battle, right? I definitely think that's true, and I'm not disputing that even slightly. Okay. I think that there is a merit in sort of a year before you launch your Kickstarter, you start talking about it, you give demo games, you do something once a month for a year, right? Yeah. At that point, it's kind of in the public consciousness a bit more for the community that you're talking about, and you're a lot more likely to succeed. You yourself are a third option. You produce constant content. You're always doing stuff. You're always doing various podcasts, 300 odd. That is another way. You can constantly produce content for free for a period of time and then go to Kickstarter and say, hey guys, all that content you've been enjoying for ages, would you like me to do more? Would you like me to do it better? Whatever your reason is, absolutely, that's another way. Yourself, obviously you ran your Kickstarter around the time we last spoke, I think. You were running your Kickstarter. Or the time before, I lose track. Or another good example would be Critical Role, who did a very similar thing. They wanted to animate an episode of Critical Role, and they've been producing content. I'm not sure if it's actually free, but I believe it's cheap if it's not free. Sorry, I don't actually. Shock horror, everyone. I don't follow Critical Role. I don't have that amount of time in my life, I'm afraid. Too busy writing new games. So I think that there is a balance, as you're saying. I think that you have to be known, and I think that in a big way, I'm certainly past that with a lot of people. A lot of people in the industry, particularly in the UK, know who I am and know what I produce. And they either like it or dislike it, and that's everyone's absolute right. I think that I could do more than I do, if I wasn't so, busy creating games. I also
do you miss out on that? I mean, you're not... Because I know of people who are like what you would call big in the community, but they're kind of well known in the community, and they kind of produce stuff kind of once in a while that everybody kind of goes crazy for and backs like a trooper. And then someone like yourself who kind of gets on with it, I don't see an awful lot of interaction from you in the community, and that's obviously each up to their own. I mean, I know. I mean, it comes down to networking events. I used to take part in a lot of networking events. I used to run kind of occasionally, run a networking event and give a presentation, and it always used to be the same people. There would be the same people that would turn up. They would have their cup of tea and their bacon sandwich, and then they were feeling like they were pushing their business forward by attending a kind of like a business networking meeting at 7:30 in the morning without actually going out and doing anything about their kind of like their business. But do you think that you would benefit from being more, I guess, kind of out there, kind of visual kind of thing? Or are you quite happy kind of where you are with things?
That's actually a really interesting question, because I think the answer is yes and no. I'm not. Yes, I probably would benefit more. No, I'm not particularly happy with, the my level of exposure, particularly in some areas of the world. Equally, and this is just a message to all the introverts out there. It's okay. I have worked for years to be able to do what I'm doing right now. Sometimes, some days it is still a struggle. I am not great at interacting with the community. I do the best I can, as often as I can. But I think to some degree, and this is the really interesting part of what you were saying about the business networking, it comes down to why you're doing what you're doing. And there is some degree of, even if I didn't have any money coming in from sales or anything, I would still be creating games.
Yeah.
Because what I care about is creating games. I would like to bring in more money. I would like to see $2 million sitting on one of my Kickstarters. I struggle to be as exposed to the public as some of those people are. I do sit down at events. There's EtherCon coming up, there's MCM Comic Con in London coming up, there's Tabletop Gaming Live this weekend. Yeah. I do go to these events, I do stand up in front of a group of people, and I do have conversations about, this is what, this is how I go about being creative, this is how I approach world building, this is, and I talk to people about why I create and how I create. I prefer my production, my games to speak for themselves. And if you pick up the game and you decide you don't like it, then that's cool, that's fine, okay? I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong. Not in any serious way. It's fine. I want to create games because I love doing it, and that's what matters, right? Yeah. As I say, I would do it whether I was getting Kickstarters funded or not. I'd just have to do it slower, right? I have universes that have been exploding inside my head since I was 7 years old. At least that's the first time I can remember it happening. And to bring those universes to life is a privilege. And to be able to show them to the community, whether they like or dislike them, is an even greater privilege. Yeah,
yeah. I also think there's also a balance in terms of, if you're known as a product, if you're known as a person, and you're tied in with a product, and you get closely associated with a certain product, then you're on the slippery slope for people kind of feeling that they own part of you as that person. Do you know what I mean? As in, I do. If you become the big kind of happy, kind of energetic, kind of excitable, and people are like, yeah, this is great because you're fantastic, and you're kind of having a product out there at the same time, there's almost like there's the danger of crossing over into people think that they have a kind of a certain bit of ownership over the personality as well as the product kind of thing, which can be a dangerous thing, which means that if you at any point just turn around and go, do you know what, this is draining me, and I really need I need to kind of take a break, it can shock people into thinking, well, I was expecting them to be kind of X, Y, and Z, and for some people it's really kind of it can be really, really kind of difficult to switch off. And I see it in this media space. I do see it. There are certain people who are kind of very well known for what they do in the space, and I can see that kind of thing kind of getting melded together. It was just a kind of to get your take, because you have, I mean, let's face it, I mean, 96% success rate on Kickstarter with everything that you've done, with the number of projects that you've done as well. You're obviously kind of doing kind of something right, which is to be absolutely highly commended. In terms of what the campaign that you've got going just now, would you ever go down kind of like the pledge manager route, or the kind of the allowing people to kind of order once the campaign's kind of closed? Because it almost seems to be a standard, to the point which, in fact, that Kickstarter also seem to be now rolling out their own, almost like their pledge manager after the fact, that if you've missed the campaign, you can go in and kind of do a late pledge through the Kickstarter system. Would you ever consider doing that, or are you a case of, right, we've got the funding, we're ready to go, I've got a timetable I've got to stick to, and even though it'd be nice to potentially gain a couple of extra backers, it's going to interfere with, my plans to getting this to kind of like the backers as quickly as I can?
So that's a really interesting question for a number of reasons. So first of all, something to be aware for people who don't know sort of pledge manager. They said no to me on multiple occasions. They're not interested. Mm-hmm. They're only interested in projects that are over £20,000 or dollars or something. They're just not interested. If you are smaller than that. So they just turn you down flat. They pointed me at, I forget what the other one's called.
There's
the smaller one.
There's CrowdOx and...
No, it's not that one. It's I forget what it's called.
GameFound, and there's actually quite a few. There's quite a few now that are kind of kicking about.
So they pointed me at another one. I don't recall. I had come across it before, but I can't think what it is now. And those people wanted 50% of anything that we took. Right. Through their platform. And I'm not being funny, but my profit margins aren't that high. I'd be paying people to back my project late.
Yeah.
And I'm just not interested in anything that doesn't further the cause of the project. I'd rather give the game away for free to those people who might come late, because that's more cost effective, right?
Okay.
So I don't want that. I don't want that situation. What I've done a few times, and I only do this for my larger projects, is I do give people the opportunity to visit a page on our website where you can sort of do a late pledge via PayPal. And what I will do is I will link it on the Kickstarter, so if someone finds it late for any reason, they can go through. But I won't be actively pushing it, because I don't feel that serves the people who've backed the Kickstarter very well. In my mind, and I would recommend, again, a lot of this has been aimed at people who are new to Kickstarter, so if you're a Kickstarter vet and you disagree with me, then sure, great, maybe you know more than I do, it's quite possible. I think that when you have finished a Kickstarter campaign, you owe it to the people who've given you money to deliver the thing you said you were going to deliver. And deliver it with the highest possible quality, on time. I should say, out of all of those 48 funded campaigns, I've delivered one thing late. It was a stretch goal on Era the Consortium, a universe of expansions. In fact, Revival, the book I mentioned earlier, it was initially going to be a 60-page book. It turned into a 150-page book with maps and so on, and I was a month late delivering it in the end. So, yeah, that's the only thing I've ever delivered late.
Disgraceful, a month.
I know. I mean,
Jowett, seriously, that's a scandal right here. I mean, the title of the show is going to be Ed Jowett 28 Days Later.
But in reality, the thing that I see when I look at Kickstarter is there are a lot of people who go on and do not plan their campaigns properly. I am a project manager, in sort of real life, in inverted commas. I work full time as well as doing all this stuff. I'm a software project manager, so I have a lot of experience myself in planning and running projects. Yeah. And that obviously gives me an advantage in planning and running projects, unsurprisingly. And I think that a lot of people they undervalue what that means. I mean, I don't hear very many Kickstarters that deliver on time, let alone, early. When I hear about Kickstarters, it's, this is 3 months late and I don't even know if it's coming. Have I wasted my money? I'm never using Kickstarter again. These are the kinds of feedback that I hear about Kickstarter campaigns.
Unless you're Orange Nebula, I mean, Orange Nebula delivered early. I'm just giving them a plug because they're awesome people. But yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's usually a case. I mean, if somebody says, "Oh no, my Kickstarter's a month late," that's why I was making the joke, because normally it is a case of folk going, "Oh, a month late?
Yeah.
Is that it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no point in taking to the comments for that then, is there? I mean, that's not even professional lateness as far as Kickstarter goes. I mean, you're looking at 6 months to a couple of years if you really, really want to kind of push the boat out.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a board game group and someone asked about Kickstarter because they was thinking of going in and backing a game for the first time. And someone said, be aware that it will be 3 months to 3 years late. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't deny that those are the stats, but I just don't know how creators look themselves in the mirror when they deliver a project like that.
I don't think anybody goes out their way to make a campaign late. I know that there's some people. There's obviously some dubious kind of companies out there that
yes, but
kind
equally
of, they have a modus operandi about doing kind of certain things. But I think, I mean, there's a bit of organisation. Yeah,
you've got to communicate with the backers. They've given you the money to do the project. You've got to tell them what's going on. You've got to tell them why you're late. You've got to tell them when it's going to be, and you've got to keep those expectations revised and up to date.
Yeah,
and you can't leave it to the last 5 minutes to tell someone that it's going to be 6 months late.
Yeah,
and to me, that is, you're saying, professional standards on Kickstarter are whatever length of time. To me, that is a sign of people who don't know how to manage projects.
Yeah.
Because you've estimated wrong in the first place, for starters.
Yeah, I think there's the excitement of being funded. I mean, as I say, I think, I mean, there's a way to kind of go through it and manage it and things like that. But I think every project has kind of like a potential to kind of slip back.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely, and especially when they're the really big ones, because they can spiral out of control. Right, that happened to me with Revival. The reason it was late is it was the 8th expansion that I delivered with that Kickstarter. Right, if it had just been that one, I would have easily done it in 6 months.
Yeah,
but
I think
it was
you can
like
be a victim. You can be a victim of your own success. You can be a victim where you kind of add on quality of life. I mean, Subterra, are they put out a kind of an update the other day and said it's like been almost 3 years since the game kind of first came to Kickstarter, and they're still kind of sorting out kind of little bits here or there, and because the project went from nowhere to being absolutely kind of huge. One thing we haven't spoken about, Ed, and I'm conscious of the time, is the price for how to get in, the price on the door, the cost of entry.
That is correct. So the cost of entry is relatively low. This is one of our pocket game range. So it is £5 if you want to get Era Forbidden, the digital version. It's £10 if you want to get both the digital and the paperback version.
Okay.
You can also get one of our memory cards. They're really awesome. I love those. They're USB memory cards, 4 gigabytes, and they're credit card size, so they fit in your wallet. Absolutely brilliant. You can get one of those. And there's a tier where you can submit your own session, which we're going to add to sort of the community free stuff that people can get. You can submit a session, and we'll tweak it and write it up for you, and get it out there. And then, of course, if you want to pick up some of our games that perhaps you've missed out on in the past, you can catch up on all of our pocket games, or all of our games in general, if that's the thing you want. So all of our 10 existing games are actually available.
And where can you find them on the internet webs? Where do they exist, Ed?
Where else do they exist other than on the Kickstarter?
Yes.
So you can find everything on www.shadesofvengeance.com/store for the various games if you want to get hold of them. Paperback, digital, and hardback were available.
Yes.
You can also find many of the games on DriveThruRPG. I've actually just this week released Era Survival's Definitive Edition rulebook. 300 pages of badness. I'm not going to say goodness. On DriveThruRPG. And of course, you can also find us in general on Facebook. That's Shades of Vengeance. There's also the Era D10 Games official group that you're welcome to join and talk to us about various stuff. We're also on Discord, and I'll give you the link at the end there.
Yes.
To stick in the show notes rather than try and read that out because there's a bunch of letters.
That's fine.
We're on Twitter at shades_of_venge.
Yes.
We are on Instagram at the same, at shades_of_venge. I can speak, I promise.
I don't believe you.
We are... Yeah, if you don't believe me after this length of time, I don't know what to tell you.
I've not... honestly.
And of course you can find us on Kickstarter, so you can search Shades of Vengeance and you'll find quite a number of projects, I'm sure. We've recently released some audiobooks on audible.com. So you can search for Life on Gaia and Radio Free Tyrannus on Audible, and they are there.
Fantastic. Good. What we'll do is we'll make sure that we put all of those links in the show notes so that we have got notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we are up to, then go to the internet webs and search for We Are Not Wizards, and you will find us on Facebook and Twitter and our website and our blog where we review stuff. We've got a review up there of Little Town and The Captain is Dead, and we've got quite a few other things kind of coming out continuously as we like to write more and more. If you like what you've listened to, then please subscribe on your podcast player of choice, whether it's got the word pod in it, whether it's got the word cast in it, whether it's got neither. We don't care, just press subscribe, it'd be fantastic. If you like us even more, consider going to Apple Podcasts and
giving you a 10-star rating.
No, drop us a subscription or a review.
Oh, review? Oh, you don't want ratings anymore?
Well, ratings are the same as reviews. You can do the same thing. You're still allowed to put in your your 10 stars. You don't give us 10 stars. What else do we not do, Ed?
Yeah. Magic?
We don't give us 1 star because it makes us cry.
No, but also we don't do magic because we're not wizards.
That's right. But that's the next bit.
I got
this
that one
bit
right.
is the middle bit.
I'm sorry, yes.
We do have 5.
You're supposed to give them 5 stars because they're average, even though it's 5 out of 5. So that actually doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Joke. Just.
I actually didn't get the joke. The first here's a secret. I didn't get the joke the first 10 times I heard you tell it. I know you didn't get the joke because I don't use.
I know you don't. That was why it was so funny. Because you kept interjecting every time, saying, no, give him 10 stars. It's like you can't physically give him 10 stars.
I know.
It's like trying to give me a donut that doesn't exist, basically.
But by the time I said give them 10 stars, I actually did know that you can't give them 10 stars. I know. It's just... I have no more words, Ed. I really, really have no more words to say at all. Absolutely. As Ed has already said, remember we're many things, but we're not wizards, because he's fantastic and wonderful. And check out Era Forbidden. You've only got a couple of days. If I can rush edit this out, which is probably my fault, which is fine, because I deserve to have to rush something through occasionally in my life. Yes, and we'll make sure that everything's in the show notes so that we've got notes to show. There's only 2 more things to do, though. The first thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Ed. Say goodbye, Ed. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to me ramble again.
Fantastic. And a bye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful. And the second thing is to go and jump onto this Kickstarter and have a check out, because Ed works his butt off. He's a creative guy under a creative sky, and he's giving you creative pies. So, the least you can do is cut yourself a slice and tuck in.
Pie.
Pie. But until the next time, good pie.
Did you say good pie there?
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.